Donald Trump's chief propagandist, Caroline Leavitt, who calls herself a press secretary, is just so sloppy and unprepared. Her press conferences like the one today are always just so disastrous. Caroline, I know you don't do your research. I don't know, maybe just go on Wikipedia for some of these judges before you attack them. Like here, Caroline Leavitt says, oh, this Obama-appointed activist DC judge and the judge's wife, they're going after Donald Trump. Caroline, the judge was first appointed by George W. Bush, a Republican. Here, play this clip.
And this judge, Judge Boasberg, is a Democrat activist. He was appointed by Barack Obama. His wife has donated more than $10,000 to Democrats, and he has consistently shown his disdain for this president and his policies, and it's unacceptable.
You're right where I wanted to go about the idea that these people are all foreign terrorists, but Judge Boasberg was originally appointed by George W. Bush and then elevated by Barack Obama. I just feel like I should clear that up.
Well, let me just...
She just doesn't know anything. And by the way, to have a press secretary from the White House attacking the judge's wife after Chief Justice John Roberts also put out a public statement for Donald Trump to stop attacking federal judges if he doesn't like their orders. She's attacking the wife of the judge, but that's very Trumpy. Here, Caroline Leavitt is asked another question, which she doesn't know the answer to, about has the White House shut down the program whereby the United States, through this research institute, finds Ukrainian children who are being trafficked by Russia. Here, play this clip.
Annie, go ahead.
Thanks so much. In the statement that you read, you referenced the president's interest in helping return Ukrainian children to their parents and to their families. There's an organization that provides intel and information about those children that their aid has been cut. It's a Yale University program that used foreign aid. And I'm curious if, as part of this new thinking with Ukraine, that aid might be unfrozen.
I have no updates about that or that specific program at this time. Karen.
Oh, you don't have answers to that, Caroline? As Greg Sargent, great reporter, says, the White House press secretary was just asked about the termination of this program that tracks Ukrainian children abducted by Russia. Why in the world would Donald Trump terminate that program? She goes, oh, I have no updates about that. Oh, by the way, Caroline, where are the Epstein files? You think you're going to distract us by releasing the 2023 JFK files and just changing the number to 2025 instead of 2023? You got Joe Rogan saying, has anyone fed the JFK files to Grok? So who killed JFK? There's not a conspiracy that moron won't chase. Sorry, back to Caroline. I digress. Back to Caroline Leavitt. She's asked here by a reporter, can you provide any more details on how authorities have determined if these Venezuelan individuals who you put in concentration camps in El Salvador are gang members, like, or terrorists, or what's your criteria for sending these people? If you're going to show their faces on these ISIS style videos, what's your evidence that they committed crimes? Play this clip.
Caroline, back to those deportation flights to El Salvador. Can the administration provide any more details on how authorities determined that each of those men were in fact members of a gang? And if the White House can publish images, photos, videos of those men, why can't the administration just release basic information like their identities and names?
We are not going to reveal operational details about a counterterrorism operation, but what I can assure you, as I said on Monday, we have the highest degree of confidence in our ICE agents and our Customs and Border Patrol agents who have committed their lives to targeting illegal criminals in our country, particularly foreign terrorists, and they had great evidence and indication. They have the highest degree of professionalism, and they were 100% confident in the individuals that were sent home on these flights and in the president's executive authority to do that.
Follow up, I know in the last briefing you cited privacy concerns as a reason why the administration may not be able to reveal the identities. What exactly are the privacy rights of immigrants who were deported that the administration says were dangerous enough to be sent to El Salvador and sit in a prison?
Again, as I just said, we're not going to reveal the operational details of a counterterrorism operation for quite obvious reasons. We're trying to combat terrorism here in the United States of America. Jeff.
Oh, we're not going to give operational update. Why don't you just list their names? Why don't you say who they are? Why don't you list the crime that they committed? No, you're willing to put their faces on screen in videos where they're kicked and punched by El Salvador military, and you're not going to just say what their name is and what they did? I mean, this is the United States of America. I mean, I'm a law and order guy, but we have a constitution and due process here. Next, I want to show you this. Reporter then attacks the mainstream media and then praises Derek Chauvin. Play this clip.
Secretary Leavitt, some prominent Trump supporters have been making the case that Derek Chauvin deserves a pardon. They argue that he did not receive a fair trial. Joe Biden and other Democrats actually implied that he was guilty while the trial was going on. BLM rioters had these jurors under immense threat and pressure. Mainstream media, frankly, many news outlets here today are complicit here. They chose to ignore the autopsy report. They chose to ignore the full body camera footage. They decided to slander Derek Chauvin as a racist cop instead. Does the administration believe Derek Chauvin received a fair trial, and will they consider a pardon moving forward?
The president has been asked and answered this question. He said it's not something he's considering at this time. Philip.
Praising Derek Chauvin, who murdered George Floyd. As our editor-in-chief, Ron Filipkowski, says, great idea, Trump regime, for letting all these right-wing nutcases into the briefing room to make speeches and turn this all into an InfoWars episode. So ridiculous. And by the way, here's another clip, though, of a real reporter, Rachel Scott to Leavitt, saying, okay, look, if y'all are publishing these images and photos, then of these Venezuelans, just you can't say what they did. Here, play this clip.
Back to those deportation flights to El Salvador. Can the administration provide any more details on how authorities determined that each of those men were in fact members of a gang? And if the White House can publish images, photos, videos of those men, why can't the administration just release basic information like their identities and names?
We are not going to reveal operational details about a counterterrorism operation, but what I can assure you, as I said on Monday, we have the highest degree of confidence in our ICE agents and our Customs and Border Patrol agents who have committed their lives to targeting illegal criminals in our country, particularly foreign terrorists, and they had great evidence and indication. They have the highest degree of professionalism, and they were 100% confident in the individuals that were sent home on these flights and in the president's executive authority to do that.
Follow up, I know.
The older I get, the more I find myself wanting to be more intentional about the way I live, eat, and take care of my body. That's why I'm so happy I found Mosh. Mosh, which you may have heard about on Shark Tank, was founded by Maria Shriver and her son Patrick Schwarzenegger with a simple mission: to create a conversation about brain health through food, education, and research. Maria's father suffered from Alzheimer's, and since then, she and Patrick have dedicated themselves to finding ways to help other families dealing with this debilitating disease. Mosh joined forces with the world's top scientists and functional nutritionists to go beyond your average protein bar. With 8 delicious flavors, including a plant-based one in peanut butter and chocolate, each Mosh bar is made with ingredients that support brain health like ashwagandha, lion's mane, collagen, and omega-3s. And now Mosh bars come with a new look and new formulation, featuring a game-changing brain-boosting ingredient that you won't find in any other bar. Mosh is now the first and only food brand boosted with Cognizant, a premium nootropic that supplies the brain with a patent form of citicoline. But here's the best part: to make you feel good, Mosh donates a portion of all proceeds from your order to fund gender-based brain health research through the Women's Alzheimer's Movement. Why gender-based? Because 2/3 of all Alzheimer's patients are women. Mosh is working closely to close the gap between women and men's health research. Personally, I love the taste of my Mosh bars. My favorite is the peanut butter crunch, which I have each morning before I head off to the gym. Now, if you want to find ways to give back to others and fuel your body and your brain, Mosh bars are the perfect choice for you. Head to moshlife.com/Meidas to save 20% off plus free shipping on the bestseller trial pack. That's 20% off plus free shipping on the bestsellers trial pack at moshlife.com/Meidas. Thank you, Mosh, for sponsoring this episode.
So then there's more attacking judges by Caroline Leavitt, who has no clue what she's even talking about. Play it.
To point out that the judges in this country are acting erroneously. We have judges who are acting as partisan activists. from the bench. They are trying to dictate policy from the President of the United States. They are trying to clearly slow walk this administration's agenda, and it's unacceptable. As the President said last night, we will continue to comply with these court orders. We will continue to fight these battles in courts, but it's incredibly apparent that there is a concerted effort by the far left to judge shop, to pick judges who are clearly acting as partisan activists from the bench in an attempt to derail this president's agenda. We will not allow that to happen. And not only are they usurping the will of the president and the chief executive of our country, but they are undermining the will of the American public, tens of millions of Americans who duly elected this president to implement the policies that are coming out of this White House.
And then one more question. Senate Minority Leader.
And here she uses her podium from the White House to beg the Supreme Court for help to rein in, quote, activist judges. Activist judges. Chief Judge Boasberg is the chief judge in Washington, D.C. Before being the chief federal judge in Washington, D.C., he was the chief judge of the FISA courts. So he knows a little bit about federal intelligence, and foreign intelligence, rather. And then before that, he was a D.C. judge, a district court judge, from the district, that is, appointed by George W. Bush. But more attacks on the judge next. I'll show you right here. Caroline Levitz asks, how do you determine if a judge is bad? Watch her response.
Our understanding, and that's the truth.
And if I could ask a question about the judge as well. How does a president define a bad judge? Is it just someone who disagrees with him? And is that a dangerous precedent in this case? Because this is a temporary ruling from Judge Boasberg that he could ultimately rule in your favor. Is he setting up a standard here for calling for the impeachment of a judge who may ultimately rule on your side?
No, it has nothing to do with disagreeing with the president on policy. It's with disagreeing with the Constitution and the law. And it's trying to usurp the authority of the executive branch of this country. It's having baseless reasoning for these injunctions. And it's a clear effort by these judges to slow roll this president's agenda.
She's then asked about Donald Trump unlawfully terminating the FTC, the Democratic FTC commissioners, and more lies from her. She goes, of course she has the authority to do it. He doesn't have the authority. Let's play it.
Sure. Go ahead.
Thank you. On the FTC, two quick questions. Can you explain the president's thinking in his decision to fire the two Democratic commissioners, especially given that Mark Meadow is on track to be confirmed next week and there would be a Republican majority? My biggest question is why now?
Sure. Because the time was right to let these people go, and the president absolutely has the authority to do it. And they were given ample notice in a letter that I believe your outlet reported on. So it pretty much explains exactly why this administration chose to let those individuals go.
Is the ultimate goal to get this to the Supreme Court to try to overturn the 1935 precedent?
The goal was to let these individuals go. If we have to fight it all the way to the Supreme Court, we certainly will. Rachel.
Caroline Levitt is then asked if it was Donald Trump himself that asked for the airplanes that had these Venezuelans to keep going to El Salvador after it was known that there was a court order requiring them to return to the United States and be given due process. Play this clip.
Deportation flight. So was it the president himself who directed the planes to stay in the air after the judge ordered them to turn back?
The president invoked the Aliens Enemies Act with a proclamation, which then directed the Department of Homeland Security and the Department of State to move forward with the plan of action. And as I said yesterday, all of the planes that were subject to the judge's written order took off before the order was submitted in court. I was asked and answered that question multiple times yesterday. Kate, go ahead.
And while the Caroline Levitt press conference was taking place, there was another press conference taking place by the Federal Reserve Chairman, Powell. Here he is right here. And for the Fed sharply reduced their 2025 growth projections. They're keeping interest rates the same because they're reducing growth projections, and they believe the tariffs are going to cause more inflation. Here's what Federal Reserve Chairman Powell had to say. Let's play it.
I do think with the arrival of the tariff inflation, further progress may be delayed. The SEP doesn't really show further downward progress on inflation this year, and that's really due to the tariffs coming in.
And here he talks about how the Fed is now projecting just 1.7% GDP growth. That's the median, when it was expected to be much higher had Donald Trump just literally done nothing and just allowed former President Biden's economy to just continue on. Play this clip.
In our summary of economic projections, the median participant projects GDP to rise 1.7% this year, somewhat lower than projected in December, and to rise a bit below 2% over the next 2 years.
Here's the headline that comes out of this meeting. Federal Reserve holds interest rates steady as tariffs, inflation blurs the path ahead. Blurs the path ahead. You mean that Trump is crashing the economy? That's another way of saying that. Let me know what you think. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 5 million subscribers, and thanks for watching.
Can't get enough Meidas? Check out the Meidas Plus Substack for ad-free articles, reports, podcasts, daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, and more. Sign up for free now at MeidasPlus.com.